Bring your curiosity. Let's see where it leads. Season 2, Episode 2, Fragments of Self. The Spark. Sometimes I wonder how many pieces make up a person. How many fragments, hidden or half forgotten, come together to create the self we show the world, and the self we hide from it. When we try to start over, when we chase change, we imagine a whole new version of ourselves waiting on the other side. But maybe transformation isn't about becoming new. Maybe it's about facing the cracks, the shadows, the pieces we've carried all along, and learning how to hold them without breaking. This episode is about those fragments, the ones that scare us, confuse us, or sometimes surprise us. About the abyss between who we were, who we are, and who we're trying to be. And maybe in exploring it, we can see that even the broken parts are part of the story, our story. Lighthouse. Hey, I'm Sam, and welcome back to EccentricAloof. Each week, we dive into the ideas, stories, and moments that make us think, reflect, and see ourselves a little differently. Today, we're stepping into the pieces of ourselves we carry. The fragments, the shadows, the spaces in between. Think of this as your lighthouse moment, a steady point to orient yourself before we go deeper. Grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's explore what it means to face the parts of ourselves we sometimes try to hide. This is Episode 2, Fragments of Self. Reflection Pool. I've been thinking a lot about the pieces we carry, the fragments that make up who we are. Some of them are easy to see, the things we're proud of, the habits we've worked to build, the victories we remember. Others are harder, the fears, the regrets, the choices we wish we could undo. I think a lot of us spend our lives trying to sweep the harder pieces under the rug, pretending they're not there, or hoping that starting over will somehow make them disappear. But the truth is, you can't erase yourself. You're a mosaic. Every crack, every shard, every fragment matters. Even the broken pieces have weight and texture, and they shape the way you see the world. For me, that hits in little ways all the time. Sometimes I notice habits I thought I had left behind, or thoughts I thought I had outgrown, creeping back in. And I have to remind myself, it's not a failure. It's a part of the collection that makes me me. The fragments are constant, but how I hold them, how I acknowledge them, that can change. And maybe that's the point of starting over, or reflecting, or thinking about the new year. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about looking at the pieces you've always carried and realizing these fragments aren't a problem. They're the raw material of growth, of curiosity, of life. They're the pieces you get to assemble again and again and into the person you are becoming. Deep cuts. The idea of fragments of self has fascinated philosophers and psychologists for centuries. William James once wrote about the stream of consciousness, the notion that our minds are always in motion, flowing from one thought, one memory to the next. A constant collection of pieces, some fleeting, some persistent. What we consider the self is not a single, fixed entity, but a shifting mosaic of experiences, choices, and reflections. Existentialists like Sartre argued that we are radically free, that who we are is constantly being created through our choices. But with that freedom comes responsibility and anxiety. Looking at the fragments, we can see both potential and limitation. The parts we like, the parts we're proud of, coexist with the shadows. The regrets, the fears, the habits that stubbornly persist. To confront the abyss of our own psyche is to acknowledge all of it, not just the pieces we're comfortable showing. Psychologists have a term for this: integration. The process of becoming whole isn't about discarding the fragments we don't like. It's about recognizing them, understanding them, and learning how they fit into the broader picture of our lives. That tension between the desire to change and the inevitability of continuity is exactly what gives life depth. It's uncomfortable, but it's also where we grow. Even culturally, we see this play out in stories. From myths of descent into the underworld to modern films about identity, the journey into darkness, into the unknown parts of ourselves, is a reoccurring motif. Facing the abyss isn't a one-time act. It's an ongoing process of acknowledging, integrating, and sometimes rearranging the pieces of who we are. Ripples. Now it's your turn. I want you to think about the fragments of yourself. The pieces you carry, the ones you notice every day, and maybe the ones you try to hide. Which fragments have shaped you the most? Which ones have surprised you by showing up in moments you didn't expect? If you've ever tried to start over or reinvent yourself, did it feel like you were creating someone entirely new, or just learning how to arrange the pieces you already had? I'd love to hear your stories, the small victories, the moments of reflection, even the habits you thought you'd left behind, but that quietly followed you forward. Share what you've learned about your fragments and how you hold them, even the ones you didn't expect to carry this far. Think of it as tossing a stone into a pond. The ripples spread out, and your story might touch someone else who's navigating their own fragments. What pieces of yourself are you noticing today? The stage. Stepping onto the stage. Let's look at how stories and media explore the fragments of self. One classic example is Fight Club. On the surface, it's about chaos and rebellion. But at its core, it's a story about identity and the parts of ourselves we repress. The narrator's fractured sense of self, split between who he is and who he thinks he should be, mirrors the fragments we all carry. Another example is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Joel and Clementine try to erase parts of themselves and their past, believing that removing memories will make them whole. But the story shows us that who we are isn't just the neat, curated parts. It's also the messy, painful, contradictory fragments that give life depth and meaning. Even in literature, we see this motif. In The Bell Jar, Sylvia Plath explores the fractured sense of self, the struggle to reconcile expectations, desires, and identity. These stories, in their own ways, remind us that the abyss of our psyche isn't something to fear. It's a space where growth, understanding, and creativity can emerge, as long as we acknowledge and integrate all the pieces we carry. Lastly, as we come to the end of this journey into the abyss, here's what I want to leave you with. The fragments of yourself, the pieces you notice, the ones you hide, the ones you didn't expect to carry, they aren't a problem to fix. They're the raw material of who you are, the textures and layers that make your story unique. Growth, change, and transformation aren't about wiping the slate clean or becoming someone entirely new. They're about recognizing the pieces, holding them gently, and learning how to fit them together in a way that feels authentic. Every fragment has a story, a lesson, a purpose. Even the shadows have light hidden in them. So take a moment today to look at your own fragments. Appreciate them, acknowledge them, and consider how they've shaped the person you are becoming. The abyss may feel deep, uncertain, even overwhelming at times, but within it lies the opportunity to understand, integrate, and embrace yourself more fully than you ever thought possible. The pieces of yourself you notice, and the ones you thought you lost, are all part of the mosaic that makes you whole. This has been EccentricAloof. I'm Sam. Thanks for being here.